Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna. We're studying Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 9, entitled The Most Confidential Knowledge. We're in text 1. It's April 26, 2020. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for participating. Bhakti Keith wrote it on the board here, if you don't have a copy. Okay, so we'll start with the word for word responsibly. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Sri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Idam tu te guyatamam pravakshami anasuyave jnanam vijnana sahitam yaj gyatva mokshase shubhat. Sri Bhagavan Uvacham Idam tu te guyatamam Prabhaksham yanasuyade Gyanam vijnana sahitam Yajgatva mokshase subhat. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Idam tu te guyatamam Prabhaksham yanasuyave Gyanam vijnana sahitam Yajgatva mokshase subhat. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Idam tu te guyatamam Prabhaksham yanasuyave Gyanam vijnana sahitam Yajgatva mokshase subhat.
Sri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Sri Bhagavan Uvacha
Idam tu te guhyatamam.
Idam tu te guyatamam
Prabhakshami anasuyave.
Prabhaksham yanasuyave
Jnanam vijnana sahitam.
Gyanam vijnana sahitam
Yajgatva mokshase subhat.
Yajgatva mokshase subhat. Hare Krishna. Would someone on internet like to recite?
Sri Bhagavan Uvacha
Sri Bhagavan Uvacha
Idam tu te guyatamam
Idam tu te guyatamam
Pravaksyam anasuyave
Yanasuyave
Jnanam vijnana sahitam
Gyanam vijnana sahitam
Yajnatva mokshase subhat.
Yajgatva mokshase subhat.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Idam tu te guyatamam
Idam tu te guyatamam
Pravakshamyanasuyave
Pravakshamyanasuyave
Jnanam vijnanam sahitam
Jnanam vijnana sahitam
Yajgatva mokshase subhat.
Yasyatva mokshase subhat.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Idam tu te guyatamam
Idam tu te guyatamam
Pravakshami anasuyave
Pravakshamyanasuyave
Jnanam vijnana sahitam
Jnanam vijnana sahitam
Yajgatva mokshaye shubhat.
Yajgatva mokshase subhat.
Shri Bhagavan Vacha
Shri Bhagavan Vacha
Idam Tute Guyatamam
Idam Tute Guyatamam
Pravakshyami Anusuyave
Pravakshami Anasuyave
Jnanam Vijnana Saitam
Gyanam Vijnana Sahitam
Yagyatva Mukshase Shubha
Yagyatva Mukshase Subhat.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll go to the word for word. Sri Bhagavan Vacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said,
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said,
Idam,
Idam,
this,
this,
to,
to,
but,
but,
te,
te,
unto you,
unto you,
Guyatamam,
Guyatamam,
most confidential,
most confidential,
Pravakshamyami,
Pravakshama Yami,
I am speaking,
I am speaking,
Anasuyave,
Anasuyave,
to the non-envious,
to the non-envious,
Jnanam,
Jnanam,
knowledge,
knowledge,
Vijnana,
Vijnana,
realized knowledge,
realized knowledge,
Sahitam,
Sahitam,
with,
with,
Yat,
Yat,
which,
which,
Gyatva,
Gyatva,
knowing,
knowing,
Mokshase,
Moksha say,
be released,
released,
Ashubhat,
Ashubhat,
from this miserable material existence.
from this miserable material existence.
Translation. The Supreme Lord said, my dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most secret wisdom, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.E.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. As a devotee hears more and more about the Supreme Lord, he becomes enlightened. This hearing process is recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam, quote, the messages of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are full of potencies, and these potencies can be realized if topics regarding the Supreme Godhead are discussed amongst devotees. This cannot be achieved by the association of mental speculators or academic scholars, for it is realized knowledge. The devotees are constantly engaged in the Supreme Lord's service. The Lord understands the mentality and sincerity of a particular living entity who is engaged in Krishna consciousness and gives him the intelligence to understand the science of Krishna in the association of the devotees. Discussion of Krishna is very potent, and if a fortunate person has such association and tries to assimilate the knowledge, then he will surely make advancement towards spiritual realization. Lord Krishna, in order to encourage Arjuna to higher and higher elevation in his potent service, describes in this 9th chapter matters more confidential than any he has already disclosed. The very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, the 1st chapter, is more or less an introduction to the rest of the book. And in the 2nd and 3rd chapters, the spiritual knowledge described is called confidential. Topics discussed in the 7th and 8th chapters are specifically related to devotional service, and because they bring enlightenment in Krishna consciousness, they are called more confidential. But the matters which are described in the 9th chapter deal with unalloyed pure devotion. Therefore, this is called the most confidential. One who is situated in the most confidential knowledge of Krishna is naturally transcendental. He therefore has no material pangs, although he is in the material world. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it is said that although one who has a sincere desire to render loving service to the Supreme Lord is situated in the conditioned state of material existence, the conditional state of material existence, he is to be considered liberated. Similarly, we shall find in the Bhagavad Gita 10th chapter that anyone who is engaged in that way is a liberated person. Now, this first verse has specific significance. Knowledge, idam gyanam, refers to pure devotional service, which consists of 9 different activities: hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshiping, praying, obeying, maintaining friendship, and surrendering everything. By the practice of these 9 elements of devotional service, one is elevated to spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness. At the time when one's heart is cleared of the material contamination, one can understand this science of Krishna. Simply to understand that a living entity is not material is not sufficient. That may be the beginning of spiritual realization, but one should recognize the difference between activities of the body and spiritual activities by which one understands that he is not the body. In the 7th chapter, we have already discussed the opulent potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his different energies, the inferior and superior natures, and all this material manifestation. Now in chapters 9 and 10, the glories of the Lord will be delineated. The Sanskrit word anasuyave in this verse is also very significant. Generally, the commentators, even if they are highly scholarly, are all envious of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even the most erudite scholars write on Bhagavad Gita very inaccurately. Because they are envious of Krishna, their commentaries are useless. The commentaries given by devotees of the Lord are bona fide. No one can explain Bhagavad Gita or give perfect knowledge of Krishna if he is envious. One who criticizes the character of Krishna without knowing him is a fool. So such commentary should be very carefully avoided. For one who understands that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the pure and transcendental personality, these chapters will be very beneficial. Hare Krishna. Om Jnanatirmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayamrupa Kadamayam Darati Svaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Ragana Kanditam Tam Sahajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sakana Lalita Shri Vishakanditam Cha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kancana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vishabhanusate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpati Vyascha Kripa Sindhu Gyevacha Patitanan Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarini Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Idam Tuteli Guyatamam Pravakshamyana Suyave Gyanam Vigyana Sahitam Yajgatva Mokshase Shubha. The Supreme Lord said, my dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most secret wisdom, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. Similarly, Hare Krishna, in the 4th chapter, Krishna says to Arjuna, he says to Arjuna, I'm speaking this to you. And we can say, because this is a profound, sublime philosophical treatise, the most sublime philosophical treatise ever spoken. I'm not going to say ever created, because this is eternal knowledge, eternal, universal, non-sectarian, realized knowledge. But each verse is self-revealing, just like it's described about the Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna Svav Dhammo Pagate Dharmagana Divisaya. It's brilliant like the sun, just like the sun doesn't need a flashlight to reveal it. And the sun is self-effulgent, self-revealing. Similarly, the pure representative of Krishna, each verse of Bhagavad Gita, each verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, it's self-revealing. Whatever we cognitively understand or not, just by exposure to hearing and chanting this vibration, that knowledge is revealed within the heart of our heart. Okay? So Krishna says to Arjuna, I'm revealing this to you. Now, Arjuna, he was not known as a great scholar. He was known as a warrior. He was a warrior. He was a politician, we might say. And so why is Krishna speaking to him? He says, I'm speaking to you. Why? Because you're my friend and you're my devotee. Therefore, Rasyami Tarutamam, therefore you're able to understand this transcendental mystery of Bhagavad Gita. Here the term secret is used. Guyatamam, secret, confidential. It's secret, and it's an open secret. You say, what's so secret about it? Billions of people have read Bhagavad Gita. But what's so secret like that? It's an open secret, and to unlock it, to unlock and get in there, then Krishna is giving the trick or the hint, to be non-envious. Material life essentially means, to whatever extent we're conscious of it or not, we're envious of the Supreme Person. We're envious of God. Material life means my mentality is Ishvaro ham bhogi siddham balavan sukhi. I am the controller. I am the enjoyer. No, I'm not submitting myself to serve Krishna as the controller and the enjoyer. Now, the nature of spirit, Anandamayo Vyasat, is to be blissful. And our nature as jiva spirit souls is we get our bliss by dedicating ourselves to expand God's bliss. Eko Bahusham, the one expanded into many to increase his bliss. And so of course, there's no meaning to love if there's force. Krishna speaks the whole Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, and towards the end he says, Yate chasi tatakuru, now do as you wish to do. There's no force. Krishna is not saying, I don't care what you do. He loves Arjuna. He wants Arjuna to choose wisely. But once there's force, there's no love. So our opportunity is to voluntarily give our life energy to serve God with love and devotion. And those activities are called bhakti. It is said, dandavats means prostrated obeisances, like, flat obeisances. So it is said that everyone offers obeisances to Krishna, either voluntarily in this life or involuntarily at the time of death. Krishna says, Mrityu sarva harascham. He said, death is a form of God. Kalosmi pravitaloka krit. Time is a form of God, inexorable time, moving anything material to be crushed, to be devastated. So certainly at the time of the death of the body, everyone's offering dandavat obeisances. So the Vedas and Bhagavad Gita, this is the summary essence conclusion of all the vast Vedas. And it's expanded in Srimad Bhagavatam. Sarva Vedeti Hasanam Saram Saram Samudrita. Srimad Bhagavatam. It's the cream of the Vedic literature. Nigama Kaptaro Daitam Palam Sukhamukara Mitadravya Savya Samyutam. And this is the ripened fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literature. And that conclusion is bhakti. So the Vedas give us the key. The Vedas say, if you want to understand me, here's how to do it. Here's how to do it. And the process, and that's why Prabhupada's emphasizing here, he even gives a creative translation of a Bhagavatam verse, saying, this cannot be achieved by the association of mental speculators or academic scholars, for it is realized knowledge. So simply by empirical scholarship, we're not going to get this most confidential, open secret. We're not going to have that knowledge self-revealed to us. It gets self-revealed through the activities of the soul in the liberated state, and that's called bhakti yoga, loving devotional service, just like examples we often give. So like that is, well, we can write like if someone goes to a doctor, someone goes to a physician, and the physician says, okay, yeah, so you got this condition, you got this ailment, you got this ailment. All right, so here's the medicine and here's the diet. Prabhupada would sometimes say, the medicine is chanting Hare Krishna and the diet is prasada. So the doctor says, here's the medicine, here's the diet. And so then I can go, oh yeah, well, yeah, whatever you say, okay, I got these medicine, you say take 2 of these, I'll take 12 of them. And you say take this, and no, I'll do it my way. So we have that choice. At the same time, why did we go to that physician if we have no trust? Right? So the physician says, if you want to transform from sickness to health, yeah, here's how to do it. Now you can do as you wish to do. So similarly, the Vedas say, if you want to quote this verse, be relieved of the miseries of material existence, here's how to do it. The process is bhakti. There's no question about that. No, and then we get to choose how much we give ourselves to follow the physician's guidance. That's our choice. There are so many paths. Yes, there's so many paths. So many paths. And they all lead to bhakti. That's not my opinion. That's Bhagavad Gita, that's Srimad Bhagavatam. That's the Puranas, that's the Upanishads. Yogi Namapi Sarvesha Madgatena Taratmana Shravrivan Bhajate Imam Samayutta Muman. The Hatha, the physical yoga system. The idea is that the yogi, through the different asanas and exercises and breathing, breathing isn't the goal in itself, or muscle tone is not the goal in itself. All these muscles at some point will be ashes or food for fish or worm stool. We get that? But the idea is, okay, through thousands of years of meditation, then the yogi can control the mind enough to look within, to meditate within, and to connect with Super Soul, connect with Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hridesha Arjuna Tishtati, with Krishna in the heart as Paramatma. And the yogi meditates on Super Soul, on the past, on Vaikuntha Lila. The yogi meditates on the pastimes, the form, the qualities. And the yogi develops love and affection for that person sitting right next to him or standing right next to him. And then naturally, that meditation leads to, I want to serve this supreme person. And then bhakti develops, and that leads to different rasas and things like that. Similarly, Bhavanam Gyanavan Ante, Bhavanam Janmanamante Gyanavanamam Prabhajate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudulabha. That one who's one who's agyani, endeavoring to realize the absolute truth through intellectual effort. And Krishna says, if one's sincere, one will come to realize, one will come to the stage of loving devotional service. So this process, and it's the same with the Varnashram system, and it's the same with impersonal meditation, and it's the same with Raja Yoga. The next verse in this chapter, Raja Vidya, Raja Guyam, Pavitramidam Uttamam, Prajakshavakam, Domyam, Shushukam, Kartumaviyam. The next verse is about Raja Yoga. And Krishna emphasizes, this path is wonderful. It's especially wonderful because it's not theoretical, as Malini was mentioning yesterday in a comment in class. In Bhakti Yoga, the journey is the goal. Because I'm so far away. And here we are. Here we are, listening to Bhagavad Gita. Here we are chanting Hare Krishna. Here we are at a morning program or afternoon program for some of you. And we say, yeah, well, so I guess I'm on the path towards the goal. Well, that's true. That's true. And also, this is the goal. This is it. The spirit soul absorbed Shinvatam Svakta Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanam Vidyata Stoya Bhajani Vidu Notisha. The spirit soul absorbed in hearing and chanting about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the goal of bhakti. And that is bhakti. Just like the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the vibration itself is transformational, cleanses the heart. And the mood of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The mood is, my dear Lord Krishna, please engage me in your service. The mood is prayerful. So the mantra is a prayer, and simultaneously it's the answer to the prayer. Please engage me in your service. How can I engage in your service? Chant Hare Krishna. So it's a prayer and it's an answer to the prayer simultaneously. So this process, I've come to it's trans-empirical. It's trans-rational, meaning it's not irrational. That as we've discussed many times in recent weeks, that if we sincerely apply the full extent of our rational capacities, our logical capacities, we'll come to understand that there's a limit to what my mundane mind and intellect can understand. And then for fuller knowledge of the absolute, then that rational capacity can takes us to this path of bhakti. Again, just like if I want to know a person, the way to know a person, if I want to know Ramachandra or Keith or Charlene or Prahlad or Rebecca or Daru Brahma or Fanon, if I want to know a person, the method is not about, I'll take you into my laboratory and I'll analyze you. By that clinical method, I might get some knowledge like, she seems to like this color, he seems to like, something. But for intimate knowledge, even of an equal, each other, the process is not that kind of clinical analysis. The process is, I gain your love and trust, then you choose to reveal your heart to me. You choose to reveal yourself to me with more and more intimacy. Now, if I want to know an inanimate, unconscious object like a rock, okay, then what is called the objective empirical sciences, they are more efficient because that epistemology, that way of knowing, is specifically meant for when the object of study is inferior to the researcher, like a rock. And that's why such methods, they are, that's why things like psychology and economics and anthropology are called inexact sciences, because there's this thing called consciousness involved, awakened consciousness, free will, self-determination. We might say the so-called objective sciences, they're reasonably effective to study objects, but to study subjects with consciousness, they're less and less viable. What to speak of to study the absolute, the original consciousness, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, completely free from the modes of nature. To the extent that we entangle ourselves, especially in the lower modes of nature, tamas and rajas, then we are like automatons, then yantramudani mayaya, then we are like machines. And to the extent that we associate with sattva gun and transcendence, and we free ourselves from the ropes of material nature, then we're truly free. And that generally requires voluntarily doing austerity, which means voluntarily giving up immediate gratification of the mind and senses for for enduring ever increasing, ever ever expansive transcendental bliss. So this process is trans-rational, trans-cognitive, and it's because I'll call like in different approaches to attempts at spirituality. The idea is like sometimes we're here like, well, to really be spiritual, you do what you feel. You do what you feel. Okay. Now, one thing that begs the question: who is this I? Am I my tongue and belly? Am I my genitals? Am I some ideology I picked up as a teenager? Am I, so who is this I? And that's why so much of what goes in the name of freedom in the current day is actually being a sold out slave to the mind and senses. We might say there's a verse in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Indriyani pranyahor indriyebhya paramana manasastu parabude yobude partastusa. So Krishna describes 5 things: the sense objects, the senses. It's a hierarchy: sense objects, the senses, mind, intelligence, and then the actual soul. And to the extent that we're controlled by the senses running here and there after the sense objects, then that's the imprisonment. That's the imprisonment of the soul. And a lot of that goes in the name of, oh, that's freedom. You're doing what you feel, misidentifying the self with the senses, or maybe at a slightly higher level, the mind. So because that's sort of pre-rational, let's call it pre-rational, someone living on that platform hasn't yet come to actually living a conscious rational existence. And pre-rational, it's not yet rational. And also the trans-rational process of bhakti yoga. By trans-rational, I mean it includes the senses, it includes the mind, and transcends them. It includes all that could be achieved by empirical effort and transcends it. So trans-rational, it's also not rational. And sometimes that trans-rational is confused with the pre-rational of like an infant. And that's why we, in the book Relationships That Work, we use terms like confusing ignorance with transcendence. Okay. Or confusing what is actually transcendental with that which hasn't yet even come to the rational platform. So through engaging this bhakti, it's a special process because it positively engages the senses. It's not that to be spiritual, you need to deny the senses, you need to eliminate the senses, or you need to indulge the senses. No, positively engage Prabhupada uses that term a few times here, at least 2 or 3 times in this purport, the science of Krishna. Kibinyasi Sudre Kini Ye Krishna Tattva Veda Sei Guru Haya. It's this guy, an actual teacher. It doesn't matter from what part of the world they come from, what gender body they're in, what age they are. An actual guru, according to the Veda, is someone who's realized and masterful at the science of Krishna. Ye Krishna Tattva Veda Sei Guru Haya. The science of Krishna. Science, as we often like to say, following in the line of Srila Prabhupada, one of his books of collected lectures and essays is called The Science of Self-Realization. And again, that relates to the second verse here of chapter 9. Pratyakshava gamam dharmyam shushu kam hartumavya. Krishna says this is a beautiful, powerful process. It's directly experienced. It's not about, do you believe this? Are you a Krishna? Are you a Hare Krishna? It's not about like, what team are you rooting for this year? Who do you want to win the Super Bowl? Buddhists. So no, this is that we practice there's a consistent hypothesis, this philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, flawless philosophy. You don't need to believe David Wolf about that. Apply your intelligence, ask questions, see if you find something that makes more sense. I haven't. been trying for 40 years. And so it's a hypothesis, and then in true scientific fashion, there's an experiment we can do to verify the hypothesis, to see if we get the same results in terms of transformation of consciousness that so many other spiritual scientists have achieved over the millennium. So by engaging in this process, so that this we should be captivated by this information, as Srila Prabhupada likes to say. Krishna says, as he says to Arjuna, you realize this, Vigyan, you realize this, and you'll be relieved of the miseries of material existence. So that's exciting if we, oh, what's available here? This is pretty good. No, this is the matchless gift. We don't need to say, but there are many miseries of material existence, many categories of disturbances. The 4 pillars of miseries of material existence: Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi. Birth, death, old age, disease. And Bhagavad Gita describes a truly wise person understands the inherent unnaturalness of being stuck in a body that's subject to repeated birth, death, old age, and disease. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, Dukkha, Doksha, and Darshan. And so how to get out of this cycle, just like now, this whole, the disease misery is very prominent. And okay, but the disease misery will go away once we find a vaccination. No, it won't. No, it won't. But we can look at modern science, and like they have cured so many diseases, like what 1800s, I heard they're like the disease of smallpox was killing like at least 10% of the British population. So there's no more smallpox. I think there's hardly any more, there's no more diphtheria. We don't hear about typhoid. So they've cured diseases. So now there's so much less disease. No, there's not. No, there's not. So this is an important point to accept. Disease is part of the material context. As long as we have desires separate from Krishna, as long as we're envious, I don't want Krishna to be the enjoyer and controller. I'm the enjoyer and controller. Then we are creating one body after the other that will be subject to birth, death, old age, disease, miseries related to eating, sleeping, mating, defending, cheating, mistakes, miseries from natural disturbances, earthquakes, miseries from our own mind tormenting us. So this is the, so this process of bhakti, we transform envy to loving, compassionate devotion. And as Prabhupada stresses here, quoting Srila Rupa Goswami, that this is not a philosophy where it's like, so be good now, then you'll go to heaven and it'll be like really nice there. No, we practice bhakti yoga in this body and we experience the joy and relief of liberation in this very body, in this moment. Practice, we give ourselves to the process. And this process, yeah, so these are the, Prabhupada sometimes describes them, the real problems of life. And in the human form of life, we have the special opportunity to create a resolution once and for all. We get to be determined, Judavrataha, I will not be forced to take birth in a material body again. And it's a scientific process, it's not a sentimental thing. Again, just like if we want to get a PhD in physics, or if we want to become a master of playing a musical instrument, okay, then it's not just saying that I'm determined. It means I find a teacher, I find an authorized degree program, I do the work. And of course, in bhakti, the process is the goal. Whereas like if the goal is to get a degree, or the goal is to make $10 million, then I'll enjoy when I have it. But in bhakti, we just give ourselves to the process for 10 seconds, for an hour. That's the goal. And we experience the liberating effects immediately. Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yogi Pravijita Janiyat Veshubhayam Ganuchada Hetukam. By rendering devotional service to Vasudeva Sri Krishna, one immediately achieves detachment from matter and realizes transcendental knowledge. That's what it means. It's a transcendental process. So many processes do this meditation to be detached. We do bhakti, automatically we get the higher taste and we're detached from the lower taste. Detachment comes automatically. Knowledge comes automatically. And so, Prabhupada's referencing a verse in the 10th chapter of Gita here. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam dhammi namamu payanti te. Krishna says, look, for one who's sincere, I'll give him or her the intelligence by which they can come to me. So our job is to be sincere. Yes, I really want the truth. Don't want to play around anymore. I don't want to do deceptions that can fool most people, but it's not going to fool Krishna. I really want the truth. And then naturally we'll accept with enthusiasm the physician's guidance, the guidance of the pure devotee. Pure devotee means someone who's a master. Someone who's a master at this. Again, just like if we want to become expert in any art, craft, or science, we find someone who's a master. So we're following the guide. We're endeavoring to follow. We're not following, but we aspire to follow the guidance of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who's a spiritual master. He's a master at serving Krishna. It is described in the Vedas. Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidhi Vida. If we endeavor to create bhakti according to our whims, then that becomes at best useless. Like we just, I'll do bhakti yoga in my way. And then it's that creates a disturbance. Understand, again, just like the whole process of bhakti, it's not about suppression or repression or stifling one's personality. Exactly the opposite. The whole process of bhakti, just like if I follow a good physician, not a quack, a good physician, I'm following, I take this medicine, this diet. Oh, now I'm getting my strength, and now I'm able to live my life again. So the process of bhakti, it's our original, authentic spiritual personality. It emerges and shines ever more brightly by following the process. And so I say that because there can be a misconception that, then you lose your individuality. No, this is about full realization and expression and manifestation of our eternal spiritual individuality, eternal individuality. And then also stressed here, I'll mention one more point that comes to me. Stressed here is the association of the devotees. So as we progress in this science of self-realization, we more and more realize ourselves as spirit souls, and you as spirit soul. We're not seeing the external casing. The external casing is just like a car. You're not the car you drive in. We see spirit soul, and we see God everywhere. Krishna, it has an expansion in each atom. We realize Krishna everywhere. So realizing Krishna everywhere, and to do that, it's important to make distinctions in terms of association. How we associate with whom. Because God is everywhere, that's a truth. How much am I realizing that truth? Not much. I mean, if we take a cross-section of my consciousness during the day, I'm not realizing God what I'm doing or what I'm thinking. So it's certainly true that Krishna is everywhere. He's in the heart of the blades of grass. He's within every atom, and there are certain ways to associate with certain people that will support me to realize more and more each day how Krishna is everywhere. And there are certain types of association that will alienate me from that realization, that will move me further into the maya of the illusion of misidentifying the self with the body. And again, to the extent that I misidentify spirit with matter, self with the body, I will be in anxiety. It's a manifestation of envy. And so this non-envious state of being, which unlocks these realized spiritual truth, that means training ourselves under guidance and in the association of those who are truly know how to be supportive on this path, training ourselves so that we achieve oneness with Krishna, not that we merge, not that we lose our identity, but Vaishnava oneness means my desire is fully aligned with Krishna's desire, oneness of desire, and dedicating myself to eternal service. Okay, so the verse reads, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, idam tute guyatamam pravaksham yanasuyave, ganam vigana sahitam yajgatva mokshase subhat. The Supreme Lord said, my dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most secret wisdom, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. Hare Krishna, thank you for your presence and attention. I welcome at this time if anyone would like to share any comments or realizations or ask any questions. Dr. Keith.
I guess I was appreciating what you were saying about giving yourself to the process, because I can't really comprehend. I mean, I know Krishna's God, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but because of whatever is in there in the way inside of me, I don't really want to give myself to him. So giving myself to the process is something that I can connect with. It's kind of, I mean, the process itself is personal. But it's, at least I'm kind of impersonal, so I can approach in that way in a genuine fashion.
Thanks for that. I appreciate your comments. I personally relate to them, because if I think of like surrendering to a person and theoretically, philosophically, but yeah, I'm far from that. At the same time, Krishna, through his representative Srila Prabhupada, gave us a process, and the foundation of the process is chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. A pillar of the process is studying these books, so I can relate to that. And then Krishna says, Shinvatam Svakada Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanam Vigyantastoya Bhajani Vidunoti Suritsatam. That's a verse by Sutta Goswami in the Bhagavatam. He says, Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma super soul in the heart of all living entities, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, personally cleanses the heart from material desire of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. So Krishna's noticing, like, okay, here's Bhakti Keith giving himself to the process, and so then Krishna takes a personal interest, even though I haven't taken a personal interest in him. And that's why the process of following the Acharya, it's like the Acharyas give us an approachable process. So I can say, just like you shared, I feel very far from even wanting to surrender to a supreme person. I I feel very far from that. At the same time, I can say, definitely, like each year, certainly if I look over 40 years, even if I look each few months, I do have more of an enthusiasm to study Prabhupada's books, more of an enthusiasm to rise early for morning program. And so what we're hearing is that Krishna is noticing that, and he's cleansing our heart from that corrosive envy. And so I too relate primarily to, thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for giving us this process. Thank you. Hare Krishna. If there are any other comments or questions? Bhakti George.
Hare Krishna, David. Thank you so much for the class. I have a question regarding austerity and meeting ourselves where we're at, because we are functioning under the influence of time, and so if we do, personally, I find that if we do austerity, inherently it's like mutually exclusive. We have to give up a certain amount of our time to do the austerity, to wake up in the morning and to chant our rounds, to go to sleep early the night before so we get to wake up in the morning and approach it with happiness. And so a lot of this process, in many ways, it's kind of like, in my experience, it kind of supports me, I guess, to make distinctions as to what I want to devote my time to. Especially in regards to work life or family life. And I actually read a quote in this book on chanting Hare Krishna that really kind of stuck with me yesterday. And I just want to share it with you because I have a question regarding meeting ourselves where we're at. I know that Ladini Shakti shared maybe a couple of days ago how at one point she was waking up at 4 a.m. with a cold shower for 1 year, and she started developing she was resentful maybe, or I think, I don't want to misquote her, but she was not happy and I experienced that too often sometimes when I'm trying to, I guess, like with sheer will of force to because like I understand getting the truth that what Prabhupada's saying, like intellectually I understand that this is for my benefit, and at the same time in practice I feel like I'm so fallen, like I'm so envious and so materially entangled, and so having that kind of duality, having to address that was very kind of challenging for me. And the quote that kind of comes to mind for me is, it says here on this book, Chanting Hare Krishna, that Ananta Shakti gave to me. It says, the Lord created this material world to enable the conditioned souls to learn how to perform yajna, sacrifices, for the satisfaction of Vishnu, so that while in the material world, they can live very comfortably without anxiety, and after finishing the present material body, they can enter into the kingdom of God. So the part that stands out for me the most is that while in the material world, they can live very comfortably without anxiety. And I don't know if that's like at a more advanced stage, because personally I experience a lot of anxiety. And specifically with taking care of my daughter, which is she's a gift obviously from Krishna, and like I very much deeply am grateful for her. But as far as austerity is concerned, she does require a considerable amount of austerity. my program director, who has been quoted to say that his program is a 24-hour program, also, it requires a good amount of austerity, my bhakti service and so forth. So often I fall into the trap of thinking of myself higher than where I'm at in the process, and committing to chant 16 rounds right off the get-go, and just relying on sheer will of force leads me to go into this doing being do be have kind of mentality, and it really has a negative effect on my bhakti lakta beach, on growing my seed of devotion. It almost like starts to choke it out from all the pressure. And so I'm appreciative that I have Danielle in a sense, because she's very much sensitive to that aspect, and she definitely knows how to meet herself where she's at, or be more honest, I would say, than I am. She's probably more honest than I am. And so my question is, when we because I intellectually understand very much, the value of this process, and what I struggle with is meeting myself where I'm at in a way that makes this journey like Prabhupada, or he was quoted in that book, to be just like happy and without anxiety. So I don't know. I spoke a lot. Maybe I don't know if you have any kind of suggestion or commentary on that.
Well, thanks for sharing, George. Thank you. Well, there was a lot there in what you shared, philosophically and personally. You shared vulnerably. And yeah, just like in, say, any relationship in this world, we say, I really care about the relationship. Well, that's showing where I'm giving my time. I'm giving my time to be with the person, to write to them, spend time with them. So similarly, if we're going to develop our relation with God, Sri Krishna, the person of Godhead, yeah, it means we're giving time, and that we're choosing voluntarily to give time. And yeah, like as far as austerity, everyone's doing austerity, and they're like, wow, Bhakti Yoga involves austerity. No, I'm gonna do something else. I'm not gonna do Bhakti Yoga. I don't want austerity. Forget it. Whatever we do, whatever we do, human life means austerity, and animals don't have the capacity for austerity. They feel like eating, they eat. It's not like, oh, it's a Kadashi, they go fast, or like it's time to mate, they mate, and so human life, again, to get a degree, to build a business, I want to build this business. I'm going to work 120 hours per week for the first few years, but then it'll be great. Okay, so there's some, I prefer to go to the beach or go to the bar or whatever, but I'm going to do so. I'm going to forego immediate gratification to build that business. Then I'll make millions. To achieve anything worthwhile, we're doing austerity. And so our choice is where to direct our austerity, and the recommendation is to direct it towards that which will give us eternal benefit that will never be crushed by time. Kuvarta up to a budget comes Svedharmata. To direct our austerity in a way where we get gain, that there's no risk there. It's the eternal enrichment of the soul. So and it's something that's coming to me, George, and what you shared is the next verse is the verse where Krishna stresses, Shushukam Kartamabhyam. Krishna stresses, this process is joyfully performed. So that's why Prabhupada would stress a lot. Chant and be happy. Sometimes they would ask Prabhupada, how can we please you? And he would say, chant and be happy. He didn't just say chant, but it's like, I want you to be happy. Meaning, that's, yeah. And meaning like, if we're not jolly, then it sounds like, well, I do austerity and so I'm not happy. No, it means when we're not doing the process. It means, yeah, maybe we're not meeting ourselves where we're at. Meeting ourselves where we're at is not meant to be an excuse for complacency or laziness or stagnation, but just like yeah, just like, okay, if I'm in North Florida, if I want to get to New York and I have a map, okay, I want to start where I'm at. Okay. So then, all right, so I need to go north. All right. If I'm in Los Angeles and I went to New York, and then I need to go east. So meeting myself where I'm at, that's simple honesty, that's simple truthfulness. It means I'm not cheating, I'm not deceiving, I'm not artificially pretending to myself or others that I'm transcendental when I'm actually, that means I'm just in ignorance. Krishna warns Arjuna in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. He said, don't be a pretender. Don't pretend you're this Brahminical person. You're a warrior. Like we can imagine, like even if Arjuna ran away to the forest, he'd find someone to fight with. Right? There would be maybe there'd be some criminals disturbing some of the sages meditating, and Arjuna would fight with it. He'd find someone to fight with because that's his nature. So Krishna said, what can repression accomplish? Krishna asks rhetorically. So meet ourselves where we're at as a foundation, acceptance as a foundation to progress with enthusiasm towards life purpose. Not just like feel my feelings, meet myself where I'm at, be who you are in all these sayings. And that's like the goal in itself. No, it's a foundation. It's honesty, it's truthfulness. Without that, we're not going anywhere because everything's based on deception and ignorance. I'm ignoring what's there and pretending I'm something else because I got some false ego that I want to be seen as a great spiritual person or something. So accept where I'm at. Not be, acceptance is not resignation. Resignation, I'm just stuck, stagnant, hopeless. But I accept, yeah, I'm in Alachua, Florida. And it's important to know to enthusiastically embark on the journey towards New York. Okay? It's not like, oh, I'm in Alachua, I'm just stuck here, it's hopeless. No, I can get in a car, I can get on an airplane. What do you mean it's hopeless? But it's important to know where I'm at. So acceptance of where I am as a context to progress with enthusiasm and patience. Patience, because the idea is like, I've been practicing like 2 weeks now, but my heart's not completely cleansed. So Rupa Goswami emphasizes utsaha nishtaya dharmata karma, that these are essential qualities of character on the path: determination, enthusiasm. Prabhupada defines enthusiasm as intelligence, endeavor executed with intelligence. Enthusiasm doesn't need to look like rah-rah cheerleader. Endeavor executed with intelligence and patience. Patience with myself, confidence in the process. So, so meet myself where I'm at. So where I'm at is, like I heavily resist cold showers in the morning or at any time. If I look throughout my life, I never take a cold shower unless I'm in a circumstance where there's really no other option. A few visits to India, things like that. Okay, so yeah, that's not even an austerity I plan to grow into. Okay, just that's where I'm at. But would it be good for me spiritually to have a cold shower rather than to come to a warm shower? Probably. We're responsible to be joyful in the process. We're responsible to pull the reins just tight enough, but not too tight, so that my body, mind, and senses are sufficiently happy so that I'm enthusiastic in the process. And so we're responsible to regulate ourselves so that we're not stagnant in the name of, that's just who I am. And at the same time, in the name of progress and austerity and going forward, I'm making myself miserable. And then then I'm resentful. And that my resentment, that's my creation. That's not a fault of the process. My resentment is because maybe I got some expectations that aren't happening. And I'm emotionally attached to those expectations that I've been doing this. I've been chanting for this time. I've been doing these austerities. I mean, I'm humble and all, but I should be getting more recognition by this time. Yeah, you should be noticing how advanced I am. There's some expectation for my gratification that's not happening. And then if I'm honest, I see I got some emotional attachment to something material. And it's not happening, so I'm developing resentment. If I'm less than honest, I'll point my finger at the process, or at you, or at you. So we're responsible to be joyful in the process.
I appreciate that so much, David. The distinction of chant and be happy, it really has broken through for me. I almost want to think of it in my process. It would be more helpful for me to think of it as be happy and chant, because what I'm increasingly recognizing, and that's what would work for me, you know. I think what I'm increasingly recognizing is what you're saying, that I'll chant and then I won't necessarily feel whatever expectation of happiness I'm feeling. And then I say, well, let me force myself to read, you know, X number of more verses and then hope. And then I'm realizing, like you said today, that, you know, God doesn't, there's no force in love. God doesn't force us. So if he's not forcing me, why am I forcing myself to doing these things, expecting like him to be like my order servant? And you know, you said something yesterday too that really relates to this, regarding the positive psychology movement studies, where they found that connecting with gratitude is the way to, I guess the easiest way to reach a state of being happy. Danielle reemphasized that with me. It's like connecting with gratitude, being happy, and then serving through chanting. It's like gratefully serving through chanting. So thank you so much. I really appreciated that.
Thank you, George. Thanks for your questions and sharing. We quoted basic positive psychology research. The quality that most positively correlates with happiness is gratitude. We mentioned Prabhupada's first center. On the storefront, there was already a painting that said matchless gifts. We get to be grateful that we have the unequaled, unsurpassed gift in this process of Krishna consciousness. And yeah, and to progress in the process, austerity, it's recommended, it's required, but actually the term tapo divya putraki, it's actually voluntary austerity. Voluntary means I'm acknowledging, I'm grateful, I'm joyful. I'm choosing to get up at 4 a.m. I'm choosing to chant at least this number of rounds per day. I'm choosing to give 15 minutes to Srimad Bhagavatam. Voluntary austerity. And if we pretend that it's not voluntary and say, well, I have to do this, then we develop resentment. And it's all based on not acknowledging that I'm responsible for choosing the austerities that I embrace in my life. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Dominique.
Hare Krishna. Sometimes I feel irritated by the concept of meeting ourselves where we're at. Because there's like a way of doing it that doesn't serve me, by just lowering my standards and like really like meeting myself where I'm at for me. Anyway, what I started to think about when we were talking is like not just meeting, like I feel like meeting oneself where one's at. The idea of it is just like you go and you visit there, you're meeting, you're just, you know, but what like is starting to make more sense to me is finding out where I'm at, like from a higher self, like my higher self, finding out where I'm at. It's just gathering information towards my goal. And part of finding out where I am at is not just what does the lower self want, like finding out what this lower self wants. Not just that, it's like finding out deep in my heart, what does my higher self want? And if I find out that I have a goal to purify my existence and cultivate bhakti yoga, whatever. It could be any higher goal. It can look different in the terms we use, but if basically the goal is like true, real self-realization, whatever path you're on, and you meet yourself and you find out where you're at, find out where the lower self is at, then the next question isn't like, I mean, I guess I'm just sort of, I don't know why I just feel irritated, like, because I get so stagnant if I just hang out where I'm at, like in the lower self, you know? But I guess what I was thinking as we were talking, because we were talking about like the roadmap, like where you're at and the goal, and then following a map. And then like, let's say that the traveling method is like hiking or something. It's like walking kind of hard and you have like a backpack, and what do you need? So like that, the next question is, what do you need? Like I was just thinking like, because like Gaetano and I recently over the last week or so realized like we need more support on this walk, on this journey. Like it's a lofty goal to purify our souls and return to our original, eternal, blissful servant relationship with the Lord. Like this is so lofty, and we're going to need support and structures. But a structure is a support. And so, but like, you know, support as in like coaching and mentorship and or peer support, as well as little by little and using the intelligence to make nuanced decisions on the journey in our lives, you know. And so, yeah, I just, this week I had like an opportunity to look deeper in my heart and recommit to my goal. Like, it's really what I want. It's really what I want to cultivate bhakti yoga. And I need a lot more support. So what do I need? And now I can start using, like, as long as I'm honest about that goal, then I can use my intelligence to like, okay, let's be honest. Like, this is what the lower self wants, but this is what the higher self wants. So how am I, but I'm not, you know, I don't want to lower my standards. I want to just bolster. I want to support. I want to like, you know, transcend some of the lower stuff that's just burdening me, you know, and my husband, you know, like, I don't want to hang out with it really that much anymore, the lower desires, and just wasting my time. So anyway, I just want to share some of that. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Dominic. I appreciate your sharing. Hare Krishna. Yeah, and I hear that because there's a lot of pseudo spirituality going on in the name of just accept yourself, meet yourself where you're at, and it is a true principle. But there's a lot of pseudo spirituality going on in the name of that as we discussed half an hour ago. That most of it is about be a slave to your lower self. There's the last verse of chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes Evam pure pram udva samstavyat manamatmana jahisha chumba mahabaho kamarubam darasadam. Krishna says, he says, yes, to conquer the lower self. By spiritual intelligence, one should control the lower self with spiritual intelligence, and then one conquers the insatiable enemy known as lust, kama rupa dirasatam. Lust, sometimes I define lust means the opposite of empathy. Lust is just, I need to have that. I need to have that gratification now. I need to have that recognition, and I don't care what anyone else thinks. So to live from the higher self, I like how you said that. It's not about like meeting yourself where you're at, but it's about being in a process of discovery and seeing what's there. In the context of more with, and in your sharing, Dominique, I hear a sense of urgency, because there's meeting ourselves where we're at, and also there's a help. Like, we don't want to try to motivate ourselves with shame and guilt. That pretty much never works. At the downward spiral. At the same time, discovering what's there with an enthusiastic urgency, and I want to transcend. I want to at least jog briskly on this path of transcendence. I don't want to just be stagnant where I'm at in the name of meeting myself where I'm at. I want to discover what's there, And it's not about trying to whip myself with shame. Notice what's there. And here's the process for transcending the lower self. And because this whole thing, just accept your feelings or things like that, for sure. That's part of truthful living, conscious living. At the same time, because sometimes it's do what's natural. Do what's natural. And here's the thing. Sure, sometimes it's natural to indulge the senses a bit and don't pull the reins too tight. And for human beings, it's natural to give up the urgent. It's natural to forego the gratification of indulgence of the lower self to create a deeper fulfillment. That's natural for human beings. And we're fortunate that through Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada's teachings, we know what that longer term can look like in eternity, that longer term bliss and pleasure. So human beings are always going to be doing austerity for some perceived longer term goal. And then the unfortunate thing is that longer term goal in most cases just further entangles us in misidentification with the body. Bhakti yoga gives us that longer term not realized knowledge. Yeah, I do some austerity, give up indulgence of the lower self, and that's freeing, that's blissful. If to the extent that we get that, that's not like oppressive. That's like, wow, I get to be freed from the pushings and pullings of the senses and the ego to engage in the eternal activity of the spirit soul, devotional service to Krishna. And that's a fulfillment, that's a bliss that never gets destroyed by time. So I appreciate your sense of urgency, Dominique. Thank you. Bria.
Hare Krishna, thank you for class. It's funny, I actually have the inverse experience as Dominique, where Dominique's like agitated about people meeting themselves where they're at, and I'm agitated of people stretching themselves too far. And I think that's because in my personal process, particularly maybe in the past couple months, I feel like I've created like complication and like stumbling blocks along my spiritual journey by like trying to aim for some kind of ideal. And I'm wondering what's like we were talking about in an email about Varnam Ashram, and the essence being meeting ourselves where we're at and like having a safety net that we can fall into. And so often in the devotee community, there's people who are striving for some ideal, and we see it, like we've seen it a lot, like sannyasis who end up sleeping with somebody or something like that. They're reaching for an ideal, but because they're not being honest about where they're at, they end up falling down in some way or like completely letting go of spiritual life. It becomes like the aiming for the ideal actually hurts the spiritual life. It can, if we're not being honest about where we're at. And so I'm just in this question of like, how do we know when we're like healthily meeting ourselves where we're at without like a slacking, which is what I understand Dominique is worried about. She doesn't want to slack. And then how do we know when we're aiming for an ideal in a way that's like truly honest and like not creating some more stumbling blocks along the way? That's not actually like, how do we know we're aiming for an ideal and repression is not happening?
Okay, thanks for sharing. I mean, I appreciate the question. I appreciate the juxtaposition of your sharing with Dominique's, because they each sharing points to pitfalls on different extremes. One is letting the horses too loose, and then the passenger is scared. It's terrifying. This chariot might go into a ditch or off a cliff, and the other is pulling the reins too tight, and then also the horses rebel, and the body doesn't help us on our journey. So thanks for your. I'll suggest it's a wonderful question to be in. We like to use that term, live in the question. That how much am I, to what extent am I moving towards balance? Perhaps the second verse of chapter 9, Rajavidya, Rajaguyam, Pavichami, Dhamutamam, Prajakshivagamam Dharmyam, Shushu Kam Kvartumavya, that where Krishna says this process is joyfully performed. That can be a gauge. That could be a gauge. Let's say if I'm doing great austerities and maybe it's the cold showers, and maybe I'm chanting 32 rounds per day, and maybe I'm, okay, let's say if okay, actually yesterday, someone came here, like a magic fairy, and gave us a gift of burfi. It was payam. Okay, so let's say it's just like I'm an austere. Yeah, I'm this austere advanced person. I'm not going to have burfi. I would be so upset. So I had 2 pieces of burfi, and now I'm happy. Okay, so like this process is joyfully performed, and so if we're like chanting Hare Krishna, but the joy is not there, maybe I'm pulling the reins too tight, not because I'm so sincere. No, maybe because I got some attachment to a spiritual false ego that people will see me as spiritually advanced and they'll venerate me. Attachment to adoration and distinction, so that that if we're not jolly and happy in the process, while taking on anxieties to spread Prabhupada's movement, and as Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, anxieties undertaken in your service, I'll consider to be the source of my greatest happiness. So like, that's like the growth edge. That's like the growth edge. And like, am I feeling stretched? At this, and am I enthusiastic and blissful in that stretch? At the same time, it's like, if I'm overindulging and meeting myself where I'm at, it's like, I just want to be happy, meet myself where I'm at. Where I'm at is I sleep till 9 a.m. I sleep till 12 noon. Okay, and then I notice like I have hardly any energy. I'm missing the Brahma Muhurta hours. I'm eating too much, sleeping too much, engaging in just gossip. I don't want to be talking about Krishna all the time, so just engaging in it. This one said that one said, and then if I'm honest with the help of the association of others who can lovingly give us honest feedback, that we get that in the name of I'm just being authentic. In the name of just being authentic, I'm just stagnant. I'm becoming a couch potato. I'm degrading myself. So in terms of experience, am I feeling myself on that enthusiastic growth edge, and I'm actually joyful. That can be an inner gauge, and to get feedback from others.
Thank you. Yeah, joy. Okay, and then also I'm wondering, like, what does it take for one to meet oneself where we're at while also steadily progressing? And I'm thinking maybe it's like the 2 qualities that are coming up for me is like humility, to be honest with where we're at, and to not be attached to being somewhere where we're not. And then also maybe trusting ourselves to steadily progress. Maybe if that trust isn't there, then of course we'll be attached to some kind of ideal.
Honesty, trust. Rupa Goswami recommends the contract quality of patience. Thank you, Bria.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yeah.
I was thinking of a conversation we had here in our ashram, I think yesterday, and related to the conversation with Dominique and Brielle. We can imagine someone reading recipe books and wow, I'm going to make a feast. I'm going to make that prep with that many ingredients and this prep, but that's what I'm going to make. And that's what we are going to cook. And then I'm going to the fridge. And then, for the feast, I need zucchini and maybe bell pepper, or I need some you know, some special ingredients, some tamarind, that's all that. And there's none of that in my fridge. And all the stores are closed. There's no way to go anywhere else. And so I can look at my fridge and say, okay, well, if I'm not going to cook all those amazing preps that are following recipes and I don't cook, I'm going to meet myself where I am at and I'm not cooking. Or I can open the fridge and look at what is in my fridge. Yeah, wow, there is sweet potatoes, there is a cabbage. What do I make with all that? And still make a feast for Srila Prabhupada and Krishna.
I love that analogy. That works. Yeah. Meet ourselves or accept the context and respond to the context with enthusiasm for self-realization and devotional service. We're not pretending we're not pretending there's zucchini and bell pepper in the fridge, and neither are we seeing what's there and then giving up. No, we say, okay, here's the context. I'm going to respond to it with enthusiasm. Thanks for that.
Another comment is that 2 burpees sounds super austere.
Well, look, I would easily done all 6 burpees. But I would have easily done all 6, but I have 2 housemates, and so I managed to like connect with enough inspiration and like that. Thank you, Melanie. Rebecca.
Krishna, I'm feeling really interested in this topic around austerity because, and particularly around your comment that of being joyful when in austerity, and I feel curious about that because I have been experiencing austerity in a new way. And maybe it's because it's been a very conscious choice. Whereas, I mean, it was a conscious choice to have children, and then there's been much austerity in that process. But I recently, in the past, since February, I've been following this for me, very austere like eating program. And one of the reasons why it's been austere for me is because I continue to make a lot of these foods for my family that are very like triggering for me, and that particularly during this time you know, of isolation and already, you know, challenges with things changing so much in my life so quickly, that it's this has just been for me, it's been a very austere choice that I've been making to continue to follow this specific diet, and in the process have had the opportunity to look at some really deep pain because of it, because of choosing to. I mean, I wasn't necessarily thinking, oh well, I'm going to perform this austerity so that I can get this benefit. I wasn't, or there is actually the benefit though is superficial. It's not like this, you know, profound spiritual deep reason for following this austerity. I wasn't following it for that reason, but in the process of following it, it helped me connect with this pain and anger and sadness and grief and all of these deep emotions that in my life before this of, you know, leaving, or in my life before, I was just so busy. I was just going through the motions, and I didn't have time. The space, I guess, wasn't there for me to really be present with what was coming up. And so here, it's just, there's no escape. there's like no escape from it. I mean, there is escape. It could have been through food. Like I could have been escaping through emotional eating, which every day I've wanted to do that, and I just have not. I just have chosen not to do it. And so I have not been feeling joyful, like, and at the same time, it's like, well, but I'm cleansing, I'm purifying. And so I feel like I've had a new understanding of austerity, in that the austerity is for our benefit to purify and to look at just for us to purify ourselves. And I'm understanding it in a new way. And I'm also wondering, like, how is it joyful? Like, when does the joy come? Is it like, or maybe I'm not doing it right, or maybe because my austerity wasn't, like, spiritually focused, it's not joyful. And maybe if it's spiritually focused, then I'm more engaged in chanting and reading, and maybe that's where the joy comes from. So I just curious to hear from you about that.
Thanks, Rebecca. I appreciate your sharing your question, and it does sound like you responded to your own question. And just to confirm your response, the term in Sanskrit in the verse I quoted is, well, tapo. Tapo means austerity, and austerity, a meaning of the word tapo is heat. It's fire. It's like a crucible. It's like a pressure cooker, and it's purifying. But the term is tapo divyam. Divyam means transcendental, divine. And so again, everyone's doing austerity. So the business person who has no conception of transcendence is working 18 hours a day and driving 2 hours to work. And maybe someone's doing so much austerity to study those books to get his degree. Okay, but if our austerity is not for truly divine purposes and coming from divine guidance, then the spiritual joy won't be there. So that's true. And also, when our austerity is tapo divyam, divine austerity, then then we can expect different weeds will come up, just like if we're just like if we're clearing a field, and when we might turn over some rocks to clear the field, and there's all sorts of weedy, wormy stuff under these rocks I wasn't even aware of. Or when we start to clean a room, after half an hour, it gets worse. At the same time, there's 10 hours of cleaning here. I thought there was just 15 minutes. So even if our austerity is divine austerity, then because the austerity is the bhajana kriya part of the process, the 9-step process. We won't go into it too much. But okay, first there's some faith to hang out with the devotees. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty cool. I like you guys. And then we start associating it out, and then bhajana kriya means, I'm not just casual. I'm not just content to, let's try this, let's try this. I'm giving commitment here. And then when we give commitment, just like you described, then we're in the seminar and we've committed, especially when it gets uncomfortable, I'm staying for the whole seminar. That's bhajana kriya. And then the anarthas come up. In that crucible, the anarthas come up. And then that can be so painful, but that's only painful to the extent that we're attached to the anarthas. Let's say I'm doing the divine austerity, rising early, chanting Hare Krishna, following regulative principles, and it's truly guided by divine guidance coming from Srila Prabhupada. Okay, then let's say greed comes up that I didn't even know was there. Let's say different forms of lust come up that I didn't know. Let's say different forms of self-deception come up. If I'm attached to that, then it's painful suffering. And at the same time, I can choose the mood. I get to drop this greed and be content with whatever Krishna provides. I get to be honest. What a relief, rather than all these mechanisms for deception. What I truly want is self-realization, honest, conscious living, and increased emotional service, then also the pulling the weeds part, the cleansing the dust from the mirror, that's also a joyful process. It's painful suffering to the extent that I'm attached to those material desires.
Yeah, that's really, I feel inspired by that, by the possibility of having something come up and then just seeing it like from a almost detached, like a detached and relating to it in a detached way, and then just letting it go. And I feel inspired by that, and I also feel encouraged. I'm feeling encouraged because I think even though my choice to follow this was superficial, I developed a lot of trust for myself in the process, that if I'm really determined and I really want to do something, that I'm capable of doing it. And so for me, I feel excited about, well, I feel both excited, I feel mixed, but I do feel more excitement about the possibility of rising at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I don't normally feel that way, but right now I'm connecting with how that could really be supportive for me, and that I could do that if I wanted to. Like I'm just connecting with that in a new way.
Thanks for your sharing. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you all. Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Oh, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you.